Welcome to the future of payroll and workforce management insights by HR.com, your go-to resource for insights into payroll and workforce management. From navigating compliance and technology trends to exploring the latest in global payroll solutions, we're here to keep you ahead of the curve. Join us as we dive into the forces reshaping payroll and share practical strategies to optimize your workforce management. Let's get started. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this, the latest episode of Future of Payroll and Workforce Management, a podcast here at HR.com, where I am your host. My name is Brent Skinner, and I'm really looking forward to this episode today and would like to welcome Matt Taylor, who is CEO and President of Guardian HR. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Brent. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And thank you for being on the podcast, really. And looking forward to this topic today. We're going to talk about how the employee experience begins behind the scenes and how sort of regulatory compliance and risk management is actually a big piece of that. Regulatory compliance and all that. So and we have a bunch of questions around that I'd like to ask you. But first, as I like to ask all my guests, and you're no exception, there's a lot of passion in this space, the HCM space, the world of work. And I just love hearing the stories. Matt, what got you into HCM? What gets you motivated every day?
Thanks for the question, Brent. I think I have a maybe a little bit of a unique story, but I was an employee benefits broker for 20 years. That's kind of where I first, got into business and really developed a passion for helping businesses and people. And I think as the ACA kind of unfolded, I really lost a lot of passion in the benefit space because it became a very commoditized product and there wasn't a lot of creative ideas to help people. I'm always a person that wants to meet people where they are. And I think in businesses, a lot of the pain in the healthcare world became unsolvable. It's going up 15% a year, 10% a year. There's nothing you can do. So I wanted to, meet people where they were in relation to the pain. And a lot of pain was coming from HR. It was coming from payroll. It was coming from not getting good service. And I think that's where I really shifted my focus about 10 years ago and said, hey, that's a pain I think I can solve and I can help business owners get a better outcome. So that's where my passion really lies, is really helping business owners, get efficient, get compliant, save time, save money, help with their people operations, and really just running a good business they feel good about so they can sleep at night.
Yeah, that's a great mission. And we need more of that. A lot more of that in this space. It can get it needs as much as it can get. So thank you for and sort of inserting yourself into this space like that. I think that's actually a great segue to our topic, which is about the employee experience, right? And a lot of folks, they kind of associate the employee experience with, culture, engagement, and workplace perks, like all that kind of exciting and fun stuff, which is great. And it's not that it's not associated with it, right? But there's a lot of stuff like kind of behind the scenes if it's going right, you don't really hear about it, but it really bolsters and supports that employee experience. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So I guess my first question for you, Matt, is this. Organizations often think of compliance and employee experience as separate priorities, right? But why do you believe they're becoming increasingly interconnected?
Man, that's a big question, and it's a great one. But I think like in answering that question, they aren't separate problems, right? What they really are is the same problem, but they're just viewed from two different lenses. Right? When policies kind of start to feel arbitrary or they're inconsistently applied in the workforce, employees, they start not feeling good and small issues really turn into bigger issues. I think kind of when you really look at it, employees, there's two places that an employer really needs to focus on in the employee experience. Number one is consistency around policies. Right? If you're delivering something, you want it to be very clear, you want to be very transparent, and you want it to be very well understood. The second piece is the culture or actually engagement part, right? So if employers can nail both of those, right? The employee feels good. hey, I know what my benefits are. I know my pay is. I know where to look for my PTO is. None of that's being finagled. It's all clear. And my employer's built a really good culture where I feel good. I understand what seat I'm sitting in on the bus. I'm understanding what I'm driving towards helping the business go. And in the meantime, I'm having some fun. I think that's the interconnectedness that really gets employees to engage, gets them to stay, gets them to want to be part of the mission.
Yeah, I agree, and I think implicit in that, uh, a piece of that is trust, right? You know, uh, I've read many different places, that trust. It's sort of it's agreed on that trust is a major cornerstone pillar of the employee experience. It's going to be good or not so good based on the caliber or the quality of trust in the organization. And trust and compliance. I mean, that's a real hard intersection right there, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, when you say trust, like, at the fundamental level, the way it kind of lands on me is the employee is making a trade. They're trading their time to go out and earn a wage to finance their life. And so in making that trade, they're putting trust into the employer to meet their end of that trade. And the employer is also putting trust into the employee. Hey, I'm going to pay you this wage and I'm going to do things for you. I'm trusting that you're going to come in and help me build this organization. So it has to be a two-way street, and both parties have to feel good through the process. And as soon as something breaks and becomes untrustworthy, it starts to fracture the foundation of that relationship or partnership.
Yeah. Let's talk about, I totally agree. Let's talk a little bit about the other things sort of happening in the background. And obviously there's risk, consideration around all of this, but, how can automation and HR technology simplify work for employees without making the workplace feel less human? Because I think implicit in that question, right, is, you want to feel more human, not less human, to have, I think that's a postulate here that, to feel like you're having a great employee experience, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things here, and there's a lot of misnomers kind of in the industry and the market. And if I, embrace automation and technology, I'm going to have a less humanized experience, which I think is kind of what you're touching on here. But where this usually lands on me is like, and I make this joke. I'm like, I've never met an HR person who got into HR because they love compliance, because they want to update the handbook, because they can't wait to do an audit and see where the employee files are wrong, right? People get into HR because they're people, because they love culture. They love succession planning. They love leadership. They love development. They love all of that touchy feely stuff in HR. So I think we're in a place now, which is so exciting, because we can use automation and technology to, number one, take a lot of that stuff off of an employee, off of HR's plate, right? So they don't have to do that as much. Number two, we can increase visibility into the employee experience. Like, they go on their self-service portal, request a day off, they can get their paycheck, they can do all of that stuff. But number three, we can put HR in the position that they really want to be in, which is doing the really cool stuff that drives the organization forward. So I think there's kind of needs to be more of a shift around, hey, I'm in HR. What did I get in HR for? I didn't get in HR because I want to update the handbook and I want to update the PTO. I got it because I love people. So I think as HR people get back into that, it's going to be way easier to embrace all the technology and automation. Because at the end of the day, it's still people, right? The intangible of people versus people and people.
Hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. You know what I think is also interesting is that, um, that that automatable stuff, that operational stuff that needs to that just invariably gets better under control, with the right type of technology in place, right? Um, that that in and of itself starts to bolster the trust or improve this trust in an organization, right? And so you have these HR folks who are uh, attempting or endeavoring to create a stellar employer culture to have their play their role in that, right? And as that sort of conventional, traditional sort of heavily administrative work falls away, which has for so long been associated with HR, they're finally able to actually do that kind of stuff that they've been aspiring to do for so long, or many of them have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you just like, you just go back and like, just think about some of the experiences from an employee standpoint. Like, they're buying a car or buying a house or doing whatever, and they now need to get their last 3 paychecks, right? A copy of it, or their W-2 from last year. And now they bother HR for it. And that's something that sits on HR's email for a week because they got 10 other things going on. Or there's been a PTO request and someone wants to take a vacation and they can't get to it. And it sits there for a week and the employee gets frustrated because they're not getting an answer. Like, those are the kind of things that are completely solvable with automation, right? The handbook needs to get updated because there's a new law and you need all of your team to sign it. Like, those are the things that, like, they're so important to the employee experience, the employer being compliant, but no one wants to jump in and get excited and get passionate about doing them. So if you can use technology and automation to do that, and then the HR person can now look and say, hey, now, let's build a quarterly agenda around employee experience, or let's, do a culture building thing, or let's do an event together. Like, let's figure out how we're going to take these people and move them into the next iteration of their career life cycle in this organization. Like, that's the stuff that moves the needle. So I just think it's really focusing on those types of things that's going to help the employer and the employee long term.
What do you think this means for HR teams beyond the fact that they're going to have more interesting things to do? Is it going to change the makeup of HR teams? Is it going to attract different types of people to HR? What do you think is going to happen?
I think you're going to see the HR org chart lean out a lot. I think, teams that were 5, 10 people, 3, 5 people, whatever it is, you're going to see a lot of those entry level jobs start to get replaced by AI automation and things that can just do the work. And I think what you're going to start to see is higher level HR people that are really the people, the culture builders. Those people are going to start to be more in demand as we move forward. That's kind of where I see this whole thing going.
Yeah, I do too. Do you think there'll be new entry points into HR, quote unquote, entry level roles, or are they just going to be different kinds of entry level roles? What's going to happen there?
God, it's a good question, Brandon. I wish we had a crystal ball on this one, but
Me
yeah,
too.
I mean, I think you used to get into HR like, oh, you're going to be our compliance person, and you're going to be our paper pusher or whatever you call it. Those are the roles that are no longer going to be around. I think the entry level into HR might be the junior culture builder, or the something along those lines is going to be the way people move into HR now, versus the let me learn the nuts and bolts of HR through the compliance and that stuff, because every day that stuff's going away faster and faster.
Yeah, agree. Is When it comes to HR leaders themselves today, right? If they kind of want to kick off this process, or maybe it's happening, and maybe be more intentional about it, or be, hey, okay, we kind of need to create some structure around this so we can manage it as it sort of transforms. What should those leaders be doing?
Well, I think kind of like what you alluded to earlier is like, HR's seat at the table in the C-suite, right? And it's like I think the question I always ask is, how does HR get an equal footing at the C-suite table? And I think a lot of that comes down to validating their existence or validating their experience, because traditionally they've just been looked at as, oh yeah, it's HR. But, when you can start compiling data about, you know, how fast people turnover, what the hiring rates are, if you build culture, how long people will stay, how that drives performance. Like if you can start to build data and reporting around that, I think that's what HR teams need to be thinking about to number one, validate their seat at the table of the C-suite, but number two, make a quantifiable impact on the outcome of the business that's actually driving it forward.
Yeah, yeah. It's about that data, isn't it?
It really is. And I think that's one of the areas that for so long, it was, I don't want to call it a nice to have, but that's probably what it was. It was like, I don't really need it, or it's nice to have, or it's not a big deal. But now it's critical. It is critical because everyone wants to be validated all the time. And if you want to validate your seat at the table, the CFO validates their seat at the table with the P&L and the report and the trends, right? HR needs to be thinking the same way. Here's how I validate my seat at the table. And if I can come in and have a conversation and talk about, hey, if I spend X amount of money and I do these 3 or 4 culture things, I can show you quantifiably how I reduce turnover and improve, performance across the organization. That's what business leaders want to see, and that's what they want to know.
Are there any regulatory sort of challenges for HR people as they get their data under control and in order to present it in a in a in the light that the C-suite will pay attention? Is it any sort of regulatory sort of or compliance issues that they should be aware of?
I mean, the biggest thing that comes to mind right now is just AI, right? Because everyone's using AI now to do everything they possibly can. And like, I think AI is really moving faster than the regulations are there that can govern it, right? So it puts a lot of people in a really tricky spot where, you're using AI to help you because you're trying to go fast. Is the data right? Is there regulatory compliance there? And my kind of thought around that is AI is here. There's no question, and it's growing more and more into our daily experience. And it's very easy to go and listen to someone on YouTube and listen to someone on Instagram and have a little bit of FOMO, right? Like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is happening and I'm feeling like I'm left behind. I got to go faster. But the reality is there a lot of people are there to get clicks and a lot of people are there to get likes, and they're saying things that aren't necessarily true. They're just trying to get these likes. So take time to do to get the data right. I think that's the most important thing to think about. Don't just rely on AI to spit it out and go, but take the time to really understand it and understand what the impact is and how it drives the organization, and be ready to have those conversations, because that's what people really want, right? Data does one thing. Data shows you what's happening, but the human part of this is understanding how it impacts the organization and what needs to change in order to get the outcome that you're after. And that's still the human part of this whole thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And by the way, thank you for bringing up AI. We almost got through a whole podcast in HCM without talking about AI. And honestly, I think that would have been a bad thing. So I'm glad you brought it up.
It's here. We have to. It's here, right?
Oh, I know. It's just it is the existential sort of consideration. Absolutely. Matt, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. I really appreciate it. This is a very interesting topic.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for having me. I love talking about this stuff.
Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Workforce Management and Payroll Insights by HR.com. We hope today's episode brought you valuable insights and fresh perspectives on the future of payroll and workforce management. Be sure to check out more episodes and explore resources at HR.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, keep innovating and making a difference in the world of payroll and workforce management.